The Three Questions. Once upon a time, in a vast and prosperous kingdom, there lived a wise and thoughtful king. Though he ruled justly and fairly, he often found himself troubled by uncertainties about how to make the best decisions. One day, he gathered his advisors and said, "I have three questions that I must find answers to. What is the most important time? Who is the most important person? What is the most important thing to do?" The advisors debated among themselves, offering different answers. Some said the most important time was the moment of birth. Others said it was when one gained power. For the most important person, some claimed it was the king's advisors, while others insisted it was the warriors who protected the kingdom. As for the most important thing to do, some argued it was securing wealth, while others believed it was expanding the kingdom's territory. Unsatisfied with their answers, the king decided to seek wisdom elsewhere. He had heard of a hermit who lived deep in the forest, a man known for his great wisdom and simple way of life. Determined to find the truth, the king dressed in humble clothes and set off alone to visit the hermit. After a long journey, he arrived at the hermit's modest home, a small hut beside a lush garden. The hermit, an old man with kind eyes, was digging the soil with a spade. Though the king approached and greeted him respectfully, the hermit merely nodded and continued his work, appearing frail but determined. The king waited patiently, then spoke. "Wise hermit, I have come seeking answers to three important questions." The hermit paused, but said nothing, continuing to dig the earth. The king, noticing his exhaustion, offered, "Let me help you." He took the spade and began working, feeling the weight of the tool in his hands. Hours passed, and the king continued digging, while the hermit rested. Just as he was about to ask his questions again, they heard a rustling in the bushes. A wounded man stumbled into the clearing, clutching his stomach where blood seeped through his clothes. The king and the hermit rushed to his side, tending to his wounds and bringing him inside the hut to rest. The king stayed by the injured man's side, giving him water and caring for him throughout the night. When morning came, the wounded man woke and looked at the king with teary eyes. "Your Majesty," the man whispered, "I must confess, I am your enemy. I once swore to avenge my family, who were wronged by your soldiers, and I had planned to ambush you on your journey back. But before I could, your guards wounded me. Had you not saved my life, I would have died with hatred in my heart. Now, I see I was wrong, and I wish to serve you instead." The king was astonished. He had unknowingly turned an enemy into a friend, simply by showing kindness. Later that morning, as the king prepared to leave, he turned to the hermit and said, "I still seek answers to my three questions." The hermit smiled, "But you have already found them." The king furrowed his brows. "What do you mean?" The hermit explained. "Yesterday, the most important time was when you were digging the earth, because that was when you were helping me. The most important person was me, because I needed your help. And the most important thing to do was to show kindness." He continued. "Later, when the wounded man arrived, the most important time was when you cared for him, for that saved his life. The most important person was him, because he needed you most. And the most important thing to do was to heal him." The king's eyes widened as the truth settled in his heart. "The answer is always the same," the hermit said. "The most important time is now, for it is the only time we truly have. The most important person is the one in front of you, for they are the one in need. And the most important thing to do is to do good, for that is what brings meaning to life." The king bowed deeply in gratitude. He returned to his kingdom, ruling with a newfound wisdom not focused on power or conquest, but on being present, showing kindness, and doing what is right in every moment. And from that day on, the kingdom flourished, not just in wealth, but in wisdom and compassion.